Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way.
How's it going, guys? Public Safety Network here. Today we're going to talk about the second part of the Armor Truck series video that I've been doing, and it's going to be on Vault Personnel. Now, most people know about the pickup and delivery side of armor trucks. They see the trucks drive around, they see the guards get in and out, and them picking up money from stores and such, and that's kind of more of the public side of it. Now, and then the second part is you have the vault side of it, and the vault side is kind of more of like a behind the scenes. You're not really going to ever see this work being done unless you're kind of in the industry yourself, because it's a heavily restricted area, generally reserved for only employees and the occasional contractor. So first of all, what is the vault? So the vault is kind of a temporary holding place for deliveries that are going out the next day, and then pickups that may have not been able to make it to the bank. And so it's just like this kind of like temporary holding space where money kind of flows in and out of to wherever it needs to go, whether it's to the bank, whether it's to merchants. And so it's kind of where the whole operation is set up for the next day when the delivery goes out. And it's kind of just a way that they did to make the armored truck side of it a little more efficient and run a little more smoothly. Now, for the purpose of this video, obviously I'm not going to talk about any of the security measures that the vaults have, and that's kind of just going to be kind of left to the imagination. And it's going to be more about the day-to-day style operations that vault personnel will do in order to kind of make things run a little more smoothly. Now, most people, when they get into the industry, unless they already have their security permits, they're most likely going to work in the vault. And that's because you don't need to be armed to work in the vault. Now, a lot of our vault personnel are armed, but it's not a requirement. When you work on the trucks, it is a requirement that you must be armed. And so a lot of times if guys come in and don't have their permits, they will have to work in the vault until they do. I got lucky enough that the company I worked for did, in fact, pay for the class, and then you would just have to pay for the licensing fees, and they would actually reimburse you at a later date. And so that was actually kind of nice because they actually paid for your permits. But now we're going to kind of talk about the day-to-day operations of kind of how the vault works and things that are generally done behind the scenes. So generally our earliest vault personnel would come in about noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that was our coin guy. His job was to go and pick up our shipment of coin that was going to go out the next day. This is coin that we did this pickup 5 days a week, with Friday's pickup being not only for Monday, but also for Sunday and Saturday as well. Now, we generally the vault gets coin from two different places. We got one from another armored truck company that was kind of the hub for coin operations for the city. And then also we would get deliveries once a week from the U.S. Mint's Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And so that's kind of where the coin come from, and then it would be sent to our branch where it would be kind of sorted and either packaged up or sent already prepackaged for distribution. So that was the two of the guards' jobs, that when they came in at 12 and 1, their job was to go get the coin, because that was actually a pretty lengthy process. Around 3 or 4 o'clock is when the rest of the vault personnel would kind of start coming in, because that's when the routes would start getting back. One of the primary functions of the vault personnel is to check in the routes. So when the drivers and hoppers get back, they unload their truck, and as mentioned in the previous videos, they will go into a special room where they will kind of check in the piece to make sure that everything is picked up that day is accounted for. And so that's the primary function of the vault personnel until all the routes have been cleared. So once all the routes have kind of been taken off the road, that's when the vault personnel kind of move into their secondary function, which is delivering all of the deposits that have been picked up that day to cash processing centers. Now, most big banks, Wells Fargo, B of A, Chase, and a few others, have cash processing centers. There's very large buildings where all they do is process cash and check deposits from businesses that use their services. And so pretty much in order to make things more efficiently, they would wait until later in the evening time and until a good portion of the routes to come back, and they would just take all of the deposits for whatever bank to the cash processing center all at once. It made things more efficiently because they used to have where the individual routes would go and deliver to the bank, and that just became very time consuming, and so they found it more efficient to just bring it back to the base, and then you'd have different trucks go to the individual cash processing centers and just make the deliveries all at once. So that's generally done in the evening time. Obviously, at a certain time, I think around like 8 or 9 p.m., most of the cash processing centers will close. And then the vault personnel will kind of get into their last duty. And this is setting up the routes to go out the next day. When I worked at, I think there was anywhere between 15 and 23 or 24 routes a day. And so it was the vault personnel's job to set them up. And what the setup means is you would have one guy and he would do what is known as throwing coin. And so that means he had a order sheet, and the order sheet would tell you exactly how much of each kind of coin you needed, how many boxes of that coin would need to go out that day. So let's say, we need X number of pennies, X number of nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars, whatever. And he would throw them on 2 carts that could be wheeled out the next day. And so that was one of the jobs. It was obviously very physical, because if anyone's ever worked in the armored truck industry, they know the coin is not light, it's very heavy. And so that was one of the jobs of the vault personnel. Now, the other part was kind of big was when the trucks went to go deliver the deposits to the bank, they would also pick up what's known as change orders. And these are deliveries that merchants have ordered or banks have ordered that they need to be delivered the next day. And so they will go and they will pick those up, and they will bring them back to the branch. And at that point, the vault personnel will, again, based on a sheet, they will find the correct change order, they will label it, and they will throw it into these bins that kind of separated based on route. So it'd be route 1 through route, 23 or, 15 or whatever the day was. And so what they would do is they would sort out all of the change orders to go into the bins, and they would do what's known as balancing. And so again, it was similar to kind of checking in routes where we'd have a scanner. Each route has its assigned number of pieces, and we would scan each piece individually. And obviously, if things were cleared out on that route, then we move on to the next route, and when we do that for every single route to make sure that all of the change orders were there and that all of the coin was there. And so that was probably one of the biggest parts, was just making sure that the routes were ready to go next day, because obviously in the case of armored truck industry, time is in fact money. The more obviously you're losing money the more time it takes. So by having the routes ready to go, it makes things more efficiently. You can have guys get in and out in about 20 or 30 minutes or so. And then there's a separate component that I didn't really talk about, and that's kind of I'm going to address real quick. We had routes, one route, and then also a vault route that would go to the Federal Reserve. And for those of you who don't know what the Federal Reserve is, the Federal Reserve is pretty much a private bank that kind of its job is to loan money to the federal government. There usually is a main kind of big branch of the bank in a few major cities. I think Dallas, Atlanta, San Francisco, Philadelphia, I know Washington, D.C., and there's maybe one more. I think there's 12 of them, actually. And those would be like the main hub for a region. And then each state has its own individual Federal Reserve bank that will usually take large cash orders and then also larger pickups, because the Federal Reserve is kind of given the authority to print new money and then also destroy money that's deemed unfit for use anymore. And so we had routes that would do that, where they would go and deliver large sums of cash and also pick up large sums of cash as well. There's a very long procedure dealing with the Federal Reserve, and I'm not going to go into it, mostly for time constraints and also for security reasons. But just know that that was also a part of it as well. We did deal a lot with the Federal Reserve and other large banking apparatuses. But, that's kind of it for that, guys. It's a very brief overview of what the vault personnel does. That job is a little more, I don't want to say lax, but more, there's more work to be done, but it's obviously in a more centralized location versus being on the road, 10, 12 hours a day. And so actually that's why it was actually one of my favorite jobs, was because, it was a little more relaxing than the stress of making all these time constraints for deliveries. But, so that's kind of completion of this armored truck series, guys. I hope you guys learned something. I hope even if you worked in the armored truck industry, sometimes things change and maybe you learned something you didn't know before. But, thanks for watching, guys. If you like these armored truck videos and you want to know about something more specific that I can talk about, or even just like a generalized video, you know, go ahead and throw it down in the comment section below. You know, I'm always happy to take a look and take video suggestions. Again, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. You know, like the video, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And, you know, thanks for watching, guys. I really enjoy making these videos, and I really hope that the channel continues to grow and I can reach a much larger audience. But again, thanks for watching, guys. And if you're working tonight, stay safe out there.